Welcome back to the Nullified Take, where I've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor South Africa, Return of the Outcasts. Now, I know it's been a busy week. There's been a lot of Survivor dropping, with 42 just premiering this week, and also Australian Survivor. We had one of the biggest moves in Australian Survivor happen, but I haven't forgotten that, we've just had this cast drop for Survivor, Return of the Outcasts in South Africa, so let's talk about it. A lot of people have come at me and have messaged me afterwards when I did my top 5 snubs, and they said, we agree with you on these snubs. There's a few that we would add, which is understandable, but what's your thoughts on the actual cast, the people that are going to play this season? We really want to know what you're thinking, and I kind of held off from doing it immediately because I wanted to get my thoughts together and give you guys some sort of quality when I do this video. And truth be told, there's a few people that were on that cast that I didn't off the bat remember how they did, so I went to go back and watch Champions, specifically the pre-merge, because there is quite a few champions, Survivor Champions castaways that are going to be in this season. Now obviously, for those that are tuning in and are completely lost and they're like, what are you talking about, Chris? We don't know what's going on. What I am talking about is the rumored list that dropped on Inside Survivor, where a cast list was shared with us. And the biggest thing that stood out from this is that it is going to be a season that are going to pit pre-merge players against post-merge players. Now, I know there's been a few times in the past that we as fans have said, why don't we have a season where we get first boots or early boots coming back to see how they would do if they were given another opportunity? And this is probably the closest you're going to get to it, because we can get memorable pre-merge players to come back and we can put them against people that made the merge and fell short for some other reason as well. Off the bat, I am worried for a few players coming into this season, and it does remind me a little bit of Game Changers, especially Chappies coming back in this spot, but we'll talk about that, I think, in the next video, because I'm going to split this in two, otherwise the video is going to be a bit too long, and we're going to talk about today the pre-merge tribe specifically. So, for those that are not aware, this is what the tribes would look like, and I've got to say, when you look at it this way, I am starting to understand why the producers of the show casted who they casted. Now, the one missed opportunity, as I mentioned last video when it came to this season, is that Pyke is on the season without Carla, which I thought would have been really good because there would have been that rivalry there. But you do have 3 players from Survivor South Africa Immunity Island coming back in Dino, Pyke, and Teresa. And you have to expect these 3 players to some degree to work together. Even though Dino didn't really play directly with Pyke, he did play with Teresa. And it's going to be interesting to see how this dynamic is going to play out, because you also have players from other seasons together in Philip, Killarney, and Shauna. Now, Shauna and Philip did play together, and Killarney was in the opposing tribe. She was in the Mark Fish tribe as a captain, and Philip and Shauna was in Corne Krieger's, or Krieger, like we say in South Africa's tribe, for the champion season. And then you've got Felix, you've got Tanya that were in the same season in Survivor Island of Secrets, and you've got Tevin and Sema that were in the same season, but they never met, and they were in opposing tribes as well. So, interesting lineup here, but let's get into a few of the players and how I think they potentially could do in this pre-merge tribe. Firstly, I want to talk about Dino, and for those that have never really jumped on Survivor Wiki, it's such a great source of information. For you, most of you that have watched last season, and I'm sure that will be most of the international fans as well, since this season actually did make its way to Paramount Plus. Dino was an early season favorite that season. He was someone that everybody thought would do well. He's a fan. He listens to all the podcasts, watches all the international shows, understands the game. But the problem is that in Survivor South Africa, even more so, I feel like, compared to other seasons or other shows and other franchises, if you're a fan of the show, you're a massive target coming into it. And I think for Dino this season, there's going to be so much upside, because he's not coming in as the only fan of the show now. He doesn't have an advantage, and I put that in quotation marks, because he understands what may come his way in the season, because he watched so many seasons. So I think he's got a better chance here, because he's going up against people who've also played the game before. Dino's biggest downfall last season, and he'll be the first to admit it, was that he probably was a little bit too paranoid, trying to make moves very early on to get Paul to work with him in the opposing tribe, which was risky, and that got spotted very early on, and people felt like they couldn't trust him. But the one thing that stood out from Dino is that everybody that I interviewed from that season when they left the season said, Dino is the nicest guy. We feel so bad that we had to do this to him, and we wish we could have worked with him. So I feel like he's got the social game and the ability to go back and do well. And if I had to make a prediction on if I think he can make the merge this time, I do think he can make the merge, especially in the tribe that he's in, because he does have Pyke and Teresa there. So in my opinion, that's a bit of a built-in alliance. I don't know how many of the other people on this list Dino would have communicated with. I feel like people that he may have spoken to prior to going into this season would have been maybe a Tevin, who's also someone that keeps up to date, I think, with the show quite a bit. But I don't know who else he would have spoken to. I'm hoping Tanya as well, because Tanya is someone that was on the podcast that I did last year on a separate channel with me, and we did an interview together, and maybe he spotted that she's still kind of active in the community or wants to be active in the community. So high hopes for Dino. Second person here that we're going to be talking about is Felix. Now, Felix is an interesting one because Felix played in Survivor Island of Secrets, and kind of almost like a Roxroy, like we saw in this Survivor 42 opening, for those that watched it. He was someone that was very bossy around camp, didn't have a lot of tolerance for people. He was definitely had a real big disdain for Tanya, who's going to be in that tribe as well right over here. And him and Tanya had a rivalry, and I think he got tunnel visioned on trying to get her out. And she ended up forming an alliance when they swapped tribes, and he moved away from some of his closest alliance members. Apparently him and Meryl that season were very close. Keep that in mind when you look at this. Meryl's coming back this season, and we'll definitely talk about her potential of doing well this season in the next video, but they were very close and had an alliance. Meryl was seen as very close with Dante, which she was, but when I had an interview with Meryl, she said to me that her closest alliance member was Felix prior to the first swap. So maybe he got swap screwed a little bit that season, and I think that in a tribe like the one that he's moving into, he's going to be very needed for the tribe's strength early on to win challenges, going up against the likes of a Chappies, a Dante and the other tribe. He's going to be very needed. If he can survive and get to the merge, I think Felix is going to surprise us, and he's going to have a deeper run than what people think. But the big problem for Felix, and this is a big problem, is that he will need to patch things up with Tanya early on. He will need to not get annoyed as easily, and I know it's tough when you're not eating Felix. Like, I probably would be exactly the same if I was you. So, high hopes for Felix. Do I think he's going to make the merge? I don't know. It's 50-50. It depends on if he plays the same game that he did last season or not. I hope he does, but I'm not sure. Now, someone else that is coming back this season here, Killarney Jones from Survivor South Africa Champions. Killarney went pretty early on in that season. I can't remember her exact placement, but she's someone that I don't feel like she had her full potential, and I had to go. One of the reasons I watched Champions again is because I couldn't remember, and I apologize for that, Killarney. I've watched most of the Survivor South African seasons from Champions onwards only once, and I just couldn't remember. It was a while ago, but one thing that I do like about her, and I didn't realize, is she's a martial artist, got a black belt. She's climbed Kilimanjaro. She's clearly fit, and her tribe underutilized her in Champions massively. Mark didn't give her the ability to do a balance challenge at one stage, and she was kind of on the outs. She tried to make a move against, I believe, two of her tribe mates. One of them was Sean, who's coming back this season as well. Oh, Shane, sorry, coming back this season as well. He's in the Merge tribe, and she didn't end up getting it and got voted out early, trying to change things up. She, to me, is a little bit of an enigma. I don't know how she's going to go. I don't know if she's continued to watch the show, and I don't know if she was a fan before she did the show. So the jury's out on how Killarney's going to do this season. My guess is she's going to be a pre-merge, and the reason for it being is that she's got such a strong personality, and she's going to want to take control. If she can learn to relax a little bit and not necessarily be in control from the start, because you don't need to always run things prior to the merge. You don't want to rock the boat too much, I think, at that stage. She might be okay. And the thing is, she does have some potential here to work with Philip and Shauna. They don't know each other that well. I don't know how much they communicated after the game, but there's some potential. Now, the next person here on this list, as you can see, is Philip Dixon. And Philip Dixon played in the same season, and he's someone that I really enjoyed, to be honest with you. He's a villain, and I like the villains. I mean, just look at that smile. It's a devious smile. He came into the season, found sugarcane very early on, ate it on his own, didn't share it with anyone, wanted to get rid of Xavier, the biggest guy from the start, formed a part of the Rugrats Alliance, but he was kind of on the outer of that alliance, and ultimately got taken out because he was a bit devious, and I don't think people could trust him. So Philip, if he goes deep into this game, is going to be good TV. And he does have a rivalry with Shauna from that season, and I believe he was one of the reasons that Shauna got voted out quite early on. And it's going to be interesting to see how he does. He's a firefighter. I don't know if he still does that. 40 years old, bit older, a little bit wiser probably now as well. But I'm excited to see what Philip could bring to this season. Like, if Philip comes in and he forms an alliance with someone like a Dino, for instance, or a Felix, could be exciting. Or even a Tevin. It's another person that wanted to play a big game last time. Interested to see how he's going to do coming back. Next one's going to be Pyke. Actually, I didn't say if I think he's going to make merge or not. I'm going to back him this time. I think Philip makes merge this time. I hope he doesn't overplay. That's the only thing, but I really want him to make the merge. So next one up is going to be Pyke. Pyke was someone I really enjoyed last season. She came in, formed an unexpected alliance with Chappies. Told on Chappies. Was it Chappies that she told on? I believe she did. That he had the advantage that he had and went to Tyson. She ended up getting taken out by Carla that season, and the rest of the alliance, they didn't trust her. She was a little bit too explosive in camp again. There's a trend here with a few of these players being too explosive in camp. I mean, her and Felix both, they might get along because of that. You know, they might get along really well. I like Pyke as a person. I think in real life she'll be the kind of person you want to hang around because she'll tell it to you how it is. But in Survivor, that can be an issue sometimes. I don't know how she's going to do if she survives a bit longer this time. She was the second person voted out that season, so only lasted for about 6 days. She's almost like a new player going up against some of these players that made it to the merge. So a little bit of an unanswered question in regards to how Pyke is going to do. But if Pyke can find a way to work with Teresa and Dino, that's going to go well for her. So she's a 50-50 on making the merge for me at this stage, I'd have to say. Maybe slightly better than a 50-50, but it's kind of where I'm sitting. Next person here is Sema's home. So Sema's played in Survivor South Africa Philippines, and it's been a while since I watched this season, but I remember Sema's being a massive fan of the show. Someone that had a plan on how he was going to go play when he goes out there. Again, they say he was a super fan of the franchise, and ended up getting voted out first for trying to play too big of a game, trying to take control. And I remember liking his confessionals in the beginning, where I was like, yeah, this guy could bring a lot of chaos and blindsides. And if I remember right, he went home on a split vote as well. So it was pretty close there. Could have gone either way, but he ended up going home. And again, will he become the first Francescois of Survivor South Africa who gets voted out first twice? I don't know, but again, if he's stayed in shape, he's a younger guy, could do well. Such a question mark on where he's going to fit in. I don't even know if I want to take a punt in regards to if he's going to make the merge or not. And remember, we have not seen any of the preseason content for these guys. So I've got actually no idea what mindset they're going in with and what type of redemption they want to get. Like, is Sema's going to go into this game a little bit more relaxed? Happy to be the second in charge, third in charge, go with the numbers. Could work out in his favor if he does. But yeah, again, Sema's coming back. happy to have players on the season who wants to play. No issues from me on that. Shauna McDonald. So Shauna, as we mentioned, same season as Philip, played in Champions, and Shauna is best remembered for her alliance, or not so strong alliance, with, I believe, David from that season. Shauna is notorious as originally having close final 2 alliance with David before her desire for his hidden immunity idol led to her attempts to blindside him and her eventual unanimous elimination. She was an interesting one that season. I think people didn't really know where to place her, and she's a character for sure, but wanting to steal the idol from David, who she was supposed to be very close with, was a desperate move that I think people will remember in South Africa. And her coming into the season, I'm wondering how many people are going to trust her. Like, if I was out there, I'd look at her and say, okay, you were happy to steal an alliance member's idol, happy to throw them under the bus. What are you going to do to me? I don't know if I would be able to trust her. I feel like Shauna is a pre-merge. I don't think she's going to go deep. Sorry, Shauna. I have to make bold calls here, so I don't know if people are going to want to play with you. Next person in, Tanya. Now, Tanya, for me, is kind of like the Debbie Wanner, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, of Survivor over in the US. She was someone that was a little bit out there, very confident in her own ability, famously told us about her rock climbing ability and how she would dominate all of the challenges if they gave her more of an opportunity. But she fell outside of that alliance very early on. Felix did not like her. Dante didn't get along with her that well. And she tried to form alliances with everyone from day one. But I really enjoy Tanya as a character on the show. I think she was a lot of fun to watch. I had the pleasure of interviewing her last year, and she has got a good idea of where she went wrong. So if she can amend and adjust what she did last season, or the season that she played, she could go deeper. The big question mark is going to be, can she stick to a solid alliance this time? Can she get into a solid alliance? She trusted Jark that season and thought Jark was the person she could hitch a ride against, and then Jark ultimately turned his back on her after they took Felix out. Can she find someone that she can work with? And I'm hoping that her and Felix don't go for each other. Because if they do, they're both pre-merge, probably. Survivor players out there, try and avoid any kind of rivalry where people can easily say these two are against each other, we need to make a choice, because that's not good for you. I'm actually surprised to see her back, to be honest, but happy. It's a good surprise. So my heart is saying Tanya to go to merge. My head is saying she'll probably be a late pre-merge vote, or somewhere in the middle of pre-merge she'll get voted out. That's kind of where I'm sitting with this one. Tough decision, because I'd love to see her in the merge. Next person here on the list for pre-merges is going to be Tevin Naidu. And Tevin is well known for Survivor South Africa Philippines, where he played with Pyke, who was his right-hand person, who, by the way, is going to be back this season. Pyke is in the post-merge tribe, as well as Tony. And Pyke did him dirty. Like, I think Tevin was there to be a big player. He had a good strategic mind for the game. He was someone that was on to Vanner early on as well as being a threat. If he made the merge, I think he could have gone pretty deep. He had the social capital. People liked him. I've got high hopes for Tevin. Now, I feel like he shouldn't trust PK, because PK is going to bring chaos again. And the issue is, if he does get to the merge, which I think he's going to get to the merge, does he work with PK? And if he does he take revenge on PK? So yeah, I've got high hopes for PK, for Tevin. I think Tevin is gonna do well this season when he comes on. He's been off the grid for a little bit, obviously a doctor, so I haven't been able to talk to him or reach out to him at all. But I hope, Tevin, if you're listening to this, I hope you go far in this game. I think you've got a lot of potential as a Survivor player that hasn't fully been reached yet. And yeah, my vote on Tevin is that he makes it probably to the merge this season. All right, lastly but not least, so Teresa from last season, super popular online. She said all the right things. She loves Sandra. She loves Suri. Super fans hear that type of stuff, and they're like, can't get enough of you, Teresa. We love you as well. And she went out there, and her game plan was to be very closed off. And from what I heard from other castaways that played with her, that they tried to make alliances with her, or they tried to talk to her, but she wasn't giving with her information. And there's that famous scene with her talking to the girls of her tribe, where she tried to say, you guys need to sell me on why I should work with you. There's three people talking to you about potentially working with them. You're one, but you're trying to bargain. You don't have the bargaining power. So Teresa's gameplay was a bit complex. And another thing that stood out from that season was that Anid on the interview afterwards saying that, you know, he loved working with Teresa and that he wanted to work with her fan to fan, but again, she just, from the start, was so closed off to people that they couldn't trust her in the game. And I think her biggest thing and her biggest struggling block, two things this season, is going to be open to people, to work with them. Hopefully her, Dino and Pyke stick together as people who worked or played in the same season. And I know it's not always that simple because personalities either gel or they don't gel, but I think Teresa and Dino would get along really well. I just naturally think that they're both people that are very social. And then secondly, she needs to prove herself early on in the challenges, because if they lose a couple of early challenges, Teresa and this tribe is going to get looked at as a potential option to get voted out. So final predictions for the pre-mergers. I think the pre-mergers are going to surprise us and do better than what we think. I think the first couple of challenges, they may get overwhelmed slightly by the post-mergers because they've got a couple of beasts in that tribe, and Chappies, Dante, PK, and then obviously Steffi, Tony, Meryl. That's such a strong tribe. I think they're going to find it hard in the beginning, but I think if they can find their feet, they will surprise us in regards to how they're going to play this season, and that they're not going to go in there with this expectation or inflated ego of having made a merge before. They're going to want to prove themselves, so they're going to scrap really hard. The players to watch out for in the pre-merge tribe, the players to look out for in the pre-merge tribe would be Dino and Tevin for me. I think they're going to be the strategic masterminds. And then the player to surprise us the most this season, I don't actually know if there's going to be anybody that's going to surprise us. Yeah, I'm going to stay with it. I really want to get like one of the females in here as well, just to be inclusive on both ends. But I am worried for Killarney, Tanya, Shauna, Teresa, and Pyke. But that sometimes is a good thing. When I underestimate the woman, they end up winning, like Nicole last season. So who knows? Those are kind of my early thoughts in regards to this season and the players that are going to be in the pre-merge tribe. If you enjoy this type of content and you want me to drop a little bit more of this, put a like on the video, subscribe, comment below. I do read all of the comments and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Let me know who you agree with and who you disagree with. Who are the players that you think in the pre-merge tribe has the best chance of making it to the merge? Who do you think is going to run that tribe? And who do you think is going to be voted out first? I think Dino and Tevin to run the tribe. And I think potential first vote, even though I hate to say it, could be like a Tanya. That's kind of where I sit with this. Guys, as always, it's been fun. Talk to you next time, and keep a lookout for my second part of this video, which will drop where I talk about the mergers for this season. See ya.